One of the scariest things about the Wuhan coronavirus, one of the main reasons all of us have long been so afraid of it, is
Wuhan virus. You ready to go to war with China? What's gonna happen to all these people that lose their jobs? Any idea? Cannon fodder.
always been how little we know about it. Ebola, malaria, cholera, obviously those are dangerous diseases. They've killed millions. But on the whole, we understand them pretty well, the fundamentals anyway. We know how easily they spread. We know how deadly they are. This disease, by contrast...
No, we don't. All of those are pseudoscientific assumptions backed by no evidence.
...is entirely new. It's literally a novel coronavirus. Early accounts said the mystery illness coming from central China could be transmitted far more easily than the flu, and that the death rate was remarkably high.
Accounts, right? Anecdotes. How can you prove a virus spreads anecdotally when there are anecdotes of some family members supposedly having it and others not?
Some reports suggest it could kill 2, 3, 5, even 8% of all those who got it. Worst case scenarios predicted millions and millions.
Some reports, right? Somebody said so, so... And I'm not saying Tucker supports any of that, as soon you will see.
So people would die. The public was horrified. They still are. But how afraid should they be? Many people are still dying in this pandemic, including here in the United States. Beyond that fact, we still don't have the numbers we need to fully understand what's happening around us. Too few people have been tested. And yet, as of tonight, there are some suggestions of good news we want to bring them to. Here's one. Between March 22nd and April...
I appreciate what Fox News is doing here, what Tucker is doing here. But I'm not fooled, man. This is the good cop, okay? Fox News is a gatekeeper. Yeah, they make a lot of sense. They catch all those people who are fed up with the situation and are looking to find somebody talking sense in this madness, right? Which Fox News do, but only to a degree, right? So they're catching all those people that are waking up or awake and redirecting them. Where? Oh, probably Wuhan, China. Go kill Gook.
April 4th, a total of 215 pregnant women delivered babies at New York Presbyterian Allen Hospital and Columbia University Irving Medical Center. Every single one of these women was screened for the coronavirus. It turned out that 33...
So you had a sample of the population, not a random sample, but, you know, maybe somewhat representative of, at the very least, pregnant women, right? Not, in other words, the way this sample differed from the sort of samples that Fauci's been dealing with, peddling to you, is that these women didn't go into the hospital to get tested for the virus because they had symptoms, right? Thus, obviously, if you assume that this virus does all the things that they say it does, thus, there was a self-selection bias there, right? People that were sick, had symptoms, well, they were likely to find the virus in their bodies, right? These women were in the hospital because they were delivering babies or whatever, getting checked up, and didn't necessarily have symptoms. That's not why they were in the hospital, right? So it's, even though it's not a random sample of the population, it is a bit more representative of the entire population.
of them had it. That's more than 15% of the total group.
Insofar as the virus infection goes, right?
Of the infected, 29 of them, that's about 88% of them, were totally asymptomatic.
So 88% out of the people in this very, very small sample didn't have any symptoms, right? So what's the logical conclusion, Tucker? You can't logically... This... we don't even have to look at Koch's postulates, right? Which this virus... Which are the postulates that have to be fulfilled in order to call a microbe a pathogen. In order to prove contagion, in order to prove that this microbe causes disease, all of Koch's postulates have to be met. This virus fails on every single account. But you don't even have to know anything about that. All you got to do is use some basic logic, something I've been talking about. If 88%, right? I've been talking about 80 to 90% of the population, we are being told, of the people carrying this virus don't have any symptoms, right? So if the overwhelming majority that are supposedly carrying this virus don't have any symptoms, meaning never get sick, how is it even logical? Forget about scientific. How is it even logical to say that the virus causes disease? How? And will Tucker Carlson point this flaw in logic out? Will he point it out? Will he? That would be speaking the truth, right? Do you think he's a logical and intelligent man? Do you? No, he's going to take you down a different path. He's going to give you some truth, and then he's going to redirect you. Where? Well, probably Wuhan.
So think about what that might mean if we extrapolated it citywide. As of April 4th, New York had more than 60,000 confirmed cases of the coronavirus and a little over 2,200 deaths. If more than 15% of New York's population was infected, that would suggest a total of 1.3 million cases in New York, with only about 150,000 of them showing symptoms. In other words, the virus would be far more widespread than we expected it to be, but also far less deadly than we expected. The actual death rate would not be 3 or 4%.
If you cannot prove, and he just disproved that this virus causes disease, or maybe we need different testing methods because these tests are shit. Something got to give, right? But he assumes the tests are legit. Thus, he just proved that the virus doesn't cause disease, right? This isn't logical, people, but he's talking about the virus mortality rate when he just proved to you that you cannot even say the virus causes disease, right? This is gatekeeping at its finest, giving you little bits of truth, but then redirecting you.
And it would be closer to 0.2%. That would be great. Now, we don't know for certain that's the case. 215 people is a small sample, and in this specific case, it's not a representative sample. Hospitals are major vectors for the transmission of coronavirus. Pregnant women tend to spend a lot of time in hospitals. Pregnant women are also younger and healthier than most people, so it's possible they're also less likely to exhibit symptoms of the virus. We don't know. On the other hand, this is not the only study that suggests these trends. In Scotland, researchers tested 500 people 3 weeks into the outbreak there. More than 1% tested positive for antibodies to coronavirus. That is 12 times greater than the confirmed caseload in that country at that time, 12 times more. In Denmark, a little over a month into the outbreak, only 0.1% of the population was infected, according to official numbers. And yet a screening of 1,500 people found that 2.7% actually had antibodies. That would mean the true death rate from coronavirus there might be 1/27th as high as they thought it was. Meanwhile, in Germany, the official death rate from the coronavirus stands today at about 2.5%. That's a horrifying number. And it may be real. On the other hand,
that's what the government is saying, right? But then they did a random sample, and this is what they got.
In the town of Gangelt, where large-scale random testing has been performed, the death rate was found to be just 0.37%. That's a fraction.
That is assuming that, people dying with COVID died of COVID, which is completely and utterly pseudoscientific.
Of the official numbers, barely 1/7 of it. So all of this is very encouraging news. If the infection is more widespread than we thought, by definition, that means the virus is less deadly. That would mean our burden on the healthcare system would be lower than we expected it to be. And in fact, we are seeing that. It would also mean that coronavirus may be closer than we knew to running its course. It would mean an awful lot of people have already been infected with it and then recovered without even knowing it. And those people could pause and let relief sweep over them and then get back to their lives. Above all, if this is true, if these trends hold, it would mean that the rest of us could be slightly less terrified going forward. Yes, this is awful. Yes, people are dying. Yes, they...
Slightly less terrified, when he should be telling you there's nothing to fear at all, because you cannot even say this virus causes any disease scientifically. So what are you afraid of, right? No, you should be terrified, just slightly less than what CNN is telling you, how they're telling you to be terrified, right? Gatekeeping at its finest.
Will continue to die here in the U.S., but it would not quite be the plague we thought it was. And that might give us some perspective. We could begin maybe to think clearly.
I never thought it was any kind of a plague, and I still don't. A lot of people didn't. A lot of doctors, scientists have come out saying that this is the seasonal flu.
Clearly, again, most of us want all of that badly, but do our leaders want that? Sometimes when you watch them, you begin to suspect they're secretly enjoying our fear. Dr. Jay Bhattacharya is a Stanford University medical professor. He's been investigating the death rate from coronavirus, a fascinating and important number, and he joins us tonight. Doctor, thanks so much for coming on. What are you concluding about the real death rate, the actual death rate from this virus?
I think based on the evidence I've seen so far, it's likely orders of magnitude lower than the initial estimates.
The evidence suggests that you cannot even scientifically say that this kills anybody. That's the evidence, right?
The World Health Organization put an estimate out that was, I think, initially 3.4%. It's very unlikely that it's anywhere near that. It's much likely, much closer to the death rate that you see from the flu per case. But the problem, of course, is that we don't have a vaccine. So in that sense, it's more deadly and more widespread.
Oh, pushing vaccines. Well, there you go.
Than the flu,
Right.
And it overwhelms hospital systems in ways the flu doesn't. But per case,
Zero evidence for hospitals being overwhelmed, right? Hashtag film your hospital proved this to be bullshit.
I don't think it's as deadly as people have thought.
I know that's very.
It's not deadly at all, or it could be, but at the very least, you can't say that it is deadly at all. You have zero proof for this. The evidence says otherwise.
Hard to come up with any kind of firm numbers in the absence of widespread testing. But do you think it's likely that there are large numbers of Americans who've been infected, recovered, and didn't know it?
Yes, I believe that is true. In fact, we're going to start to know that very, very soon. I've been working on studies with some colleagues of mine in Santa Clara County, in Los Angeles County, and then also a large nationwide study working with Major League Baseball employees, not just athletes, but all the employees. Very soon, we're going to have, I think, a much more accurate understanding of how widespread this is. And then, we'll, as you said it very well in your introduction, we'll also know much better how deadly it actually is. Evidence from around the world is flowing in, and it really seems like there's many cases of the coronavirus that we haven't identified with the testing regimens that we've had around the world. Many orders of magnitude more people have been infected with it. I think
Man, you know, I've been talking about this for, what, a month now or something like that? I'm not even a scientist. I'm not even a doctor. They're just starting to talk about this after all this damage has already been done.
we realize, and that, as you rightly pointed out, means that the death rate is actually lower than people have realized, also by orders of magnitude.
So one of the destructive byproducts of this pandemic is fear, which is itself, I would say, it clearly is hurting people. You're an American, in addition to a physician and a researcher. Based on the research that you have done, are you more afraid or less afraid than you were when you began?
I'm less afraid than I was when I began. I think.
Still afraid, though, even though there's no scientific evidence, you should still be somewhat afraid.
I mean, I've heard so many stories of people who can't hug their grandkids, who are scared to hug because they don't want to get the virus from their kids because they're older. I've heard lots of stories of even of like husbands and wives that won't hug each other because the wife is a nurse and a frontline worker. I think this understanding really the true death rate. If the death rate's somewhere near 1 in 1,000. Would you not hug your wife? I mean, if it's 3 in 100, you act very differently than if it's 1 in 1,000. So I'm hoping once we get accurate numbers in place,
once we get accurate numbers in place. This is, let me explain to you what's happening here, okay? Channels such as CNN are 2 steps forward, yeah, insofar as pushing the agenda, and a channel like Fox News is 1 step back. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. That's all that's happening, people. Realize. Now, let me see if I can find this video where I was, there we go, talking to someone about what's happening. And, you know, most people are just completely illogical. And if you can't even be logical, as I stated in the past and proved in the past, obviously you cannot be scientific. So I basically left a comment saying that, you know, if 90% or somewhere between 80 and 90%, here we are, of the virus carriers are asymptomatic, as both Deborah Birx, I think is the spelling of her name, and Fauci have stated, how can one say that the virus causes any disease? You can't, right? That's like saying driving causes car accidents because maybe 20% of drivers will have an accident in their lifetime of driving. Not only does correlation not equal causation, a negative correlation debunks any claim of causality in light of lack of any additional evidence. After all, if 80% of drivers never have an accident, driving cannot be the cause of accidents, right? Simply driving, it's just illogical to say that driving is a cause of accidents because you would need to have 100% correlation to begin to be able to even say that. And then you still have to study what else might be contributing to these accidents, right? Like, is it alcohol consumption? Is it bad traffic lights? You know, what is it? And this person said to me, your logic is very flawed. Consider playing Russian roulette where you have 1/6 chance to die. Is playing Russian roulette cause of death? For sure, right? Even if 5/6 of those who played did not die. Okay, do you see the problem? No, not yet. Driving is for sure the cause of car accidents. Driving is the cause of car accidents, guys. If you do not drive, your car does not crash, right? If you don't have a heart, you can never get a heart attack. So heart is the cause of heart attacks. Oh, the more you drive, more chance to get into an accident. Well, that may be true. That still doesn't make driving the cause of accidents, right? And this was my answer to him. There's no such thing as my logic or your logic. There's only logic. You not understanding this basic truth suggests you don't know what logic is and explains why you are illogical. Your assertion is that because 1/6 of an activity results in dying, that must mean the activity caused the result. Well, that same activity also results in 5/6 of the participants not dying. Thus, you must say, in order to be consistent, that the activity does not cause death. So what you are in effect saying is that Russian roulette causes and doesn't cause death. Clearly that is self-refuting and incoherent and cannot be true. The true cause of death 1/6 of the time is observable. Its explanation banal. The cause of death during the game of Russian roulette is the idiot shooting himself in the head. Is playing the game a contributing factor or something that can lead to one's death 1/6 of the time? Surely. That doesn't make it the cause. Sorry about the dogs. That's like saying that the cause of heart attack is having a heart, because everybody that has a heart, or everybody that has a heart attack has a heart. Here's an analogy using the virus. Assuming that SARS-CoV-2 is contagious and causes disease, for which there is zero scientific proof, simply going outside, like playing Russian roulette, is not the cause of your death. If you happen to catch it and die from it while being outside, clearly the virus was what killed you. Going outside or playing Russian roulette did not kill you. Contracting the virus, is that the right word? Yeah. Or pulling the trigger on the loaded gun chamber is what killed you. So, people are asking me for solutions, right? Well, I've been telling you what the solution is for years. What the solution to this madness is. Shut up! It's being logical. Start by being logical, right? Thanks for watching.